Whoop, whoop. There we go. Showing up as live now on my phone. Cool. Free open beta. Ooh. Oh, that's right. PlayStation. Free for all PlayStation players. Oh, of course. Sorry, I'm seeing the ad now for Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, okay.
The other multiplayer shooter that's coming out soon. Alrighty, let's get started.
Yep.
You are now listening to Double Jump Radio.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 69 of Double Jumper Radio. I'm your host Abir and I'm joined once again by my co-host John. John, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good, thank you. The first time I've been able to wear t-shirts and shorts in months now, which is a good sign.
Megaton.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. How's everything at home? I understand that you've brought on a new family member.
Yes. Did I mention it last week on
I think you were I think you were talking.
I did?
Maybe that might have been after we stopped recording.
Yeah,
it
wasn't-
blurs
I can't
together now.
remember. Yes, but we have a new cat named Rocket. It is an adopted cat that is a few months younger than our current cats, Ash and Zoe. He is very nervous. He's howling a lot, so we're doing the whole thing of keeping Rocket away from Ash and Zoe for about a week, so they can kind of smell each other's after they've left the space, so they can kind of get used to the space being shared by them. And then hopefully everything goes smoothly as they actually meet each other.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah, me too. It's like the more I think about it, the more nervous I get that's potentially something that might not happen. But yes, it's not much to say so far.
It's still
more
early.
say next week, I think. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. It's always good to have new pets. It's always fun. Hopefully they all get along. It sounds like more like Zoe and Rocket. I think hopefully can kind of satiate each other's kind of energetic kind of streaks, because it seems like Ash is more like kind of chill.
Yeah, so far Zoe's been, because she's the more energetic one. She seems to be less nervous or afraid of having a new cat in the house somewhere. Because they've met each other once through like the fly screen door at the side of a house. So they've seen each other, and I wasn't there, but from how it was described to me, Zoe was far less apprehensive than Ash was.
Okay.
Which is kind of expected, but we'll see how it all pans out. I'm more worried about Ash and Rocket than I am Zoe, I think.
Especially because they'd both be boys, right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But I think they just don't have personalities that will necessarily mesh with other cats so easily. Yeah, so...
Okay.
But yeah, hopeful, but not. There's lots of variables right now.
Oh, fair enough. Well, hopefully that goes well. Let's get straight into it, because it's been a bumper week of news. Things like, I think last week we had a pretty big bit of news just by the virtue of us missing a week there, but this past week has been crazy just in and of itself. So, John, let's kick things off with the news theme. Dude, what the hell is happening with GTA 6? Oh my god.
GTA 6 was, I guess, leaked in a big way on Sunday or Monday, or I'm not sure quite how it timed out for us in Australia. I think it was Sunday everywhere else. But yes, GTA 6 has undergone one of the biggest video game leaks in history. So on September 19, a user on the GTA forums called Teapot Uber Hacker Uber is the important part because this hacker claims he's also the one, or they're also the one responsible for hacking Uber, like the ride sharing company, somewhat recently.
Yeah.
So I don't, whether that's true or not, it doesn't really matter. But this user posted 90 videos from a test build of GTA 6 running with, quote, GTA 5 and 6 source code and assets. So a lot of it visually wasn't really different from what we expected, or what we've seen before, rather. But it had a lot of other details included in it. So since that leak, Rockstar have actually confirmed that it's all real, which I think they didn't really have much other choice just from how comprehensive this leak was.
Yeah.
So from their quote, they've said that, quote, an unauthorized third party illegally accessed and downloaded confidential information from our systems, including early development footage for the next Grand Theft Auto. And yeah, GTA publisher Take-Two, they've been using copyright strikes to take down videos from any mainstream website that hosts them, which is why you're not seeing footage of it on the stream watching. And you probably can't find it unless you go to some more shady websites, I imagine. But it wasn't, as someone who did see a little bit of it, it wasn't crazy,
It's very
much
early
in development. Yeah, lots of text over the screen describing things happening because it was, in development. My screen's messing up. Okay, good. I was worried the stream would have gone down. Okay, so yeah, so from the development footage we've seen, like from and as other people have broken it down, this kind of lines up with some of the rumors we've heard so far about GTA 6. So part of this includes that it will have my screen's broken slightly, so I'm kind of going off memory. First off is that it's gonna feature at least 2 protagonists in a Bonnie and Clyde style setup, so one man and one woman. One of the woman is a Latina person. From the footage, we've kind of gotten their names. One is Jason, and the other is Lucia. Lucia is probably right. And hang on, I gotta fix my thing. I have to highlight everything to see the footage, the content again. Aside from that, we haven't seen their, we don't know their last names, just got first names. Aside from that, GTAbase.com, they have published a comprehensive breakdown of all the details that people have been able to find in these 90 videos posted online. So I won't say all of them. There are quite a few, but I'll list off a bunch of the ones that were notable to me. So first off, the dialogue system from Red Dead 2 is making its GTA debut. So from if you remember or you haven't played it, that means that basically outside of cutscenes, you can kind of interact with people by bringing up, I think usually hold R2 and it brings up a few kind of dialogue prompts attached to each face button. So from the footage, you see greet, threaten, and rob. We're seen there's in a scene in a diner robbery where you're approaching different NPCs. You can only carry 2 rifles and 2 pistols like Red Dead 2, which is a big change if that's still in the game when it launches. There's a number of other Red Dead 2 mechanics in GTA 6, seemingly. A lot of them are to do with robbery-like mechanics, like being able to loot bodies or tie up people or stuff like that. There are stealth mechanics, so new animations include crouching and going prone. There are additional item slots for painkillers, health kit, and body armor. Another big change for the series. There are references to RPG elements, such as food, drink, sweat, fatigue, and animal taming, and I assume several others, which a lot of this kind of aligns closely with what Red Dead 2 achieved as a game, because that was very expansive mechanically for a Rockstar game. So a lot of this seems to be that they very much took the bones of Red Dead 2 for GTA 6, which I think makes a lot of sense. Because that's kind of how they've always operated, like Rockstar, every game is in service of the next GTA. That's always seemingly how it goes.
Yeah. Seems like you prototype with the Red Dead and then that or it kind of makes its way.
Yeah, like into the next title. Yeah. Police seem to be much smarter, have much like stronger AI, so they won't shoot at players right away. They'll give them time to surrender before they actually do that, which is interesting. I like the idea of adding depth to that. And one video features a lake that could be from Miami. That could be far from Miami. So this kind of implies that this game won't be set just in Vice City. It will actually be a big chunk of Florida, like the state of Florida. And there's also another location in the game called Port Gellhorn, which was seen on the side of police cars. So this could also imply that the world is large enough to have more than just one city. So rather than just, because like if you remember GTA 5, GTA 5 has is it San Andreas or just like the main, or is it Las Venturas? Or is that something else?
It
I don't remember.
was because so I think it was set in Los Santos.
Okay.
Because that's the LA equivalent. San Andreas was the equivalent of California as a state. Las Venturas was Las Vegas, and San Fierro was San Francisco. But I think GTA 5 was like Los Santos plus like the surrounding area, I think.
Yeah, like my main point is that like to the south of the map in GTA 5 is the city, and everything else is like more or less wilderness with small bits of urban parts.
Yep.
It sounds like it'll be more than just the single city, but actually at least a couple, I guess. Which is also like something when I think about it, it's like, oh, that's new. Like I don't think it was new for San Andreas. I think that one had like a big, but it's like, I don't know, I haven't played that one, so it's new to me. But yeah, aside from that, there's like more info on GTA Base if you want to seek it out. But basically, there's a lot of information in these videos, more than I kind of got the impression of when I saw a couple of them. So it's So yeah, just to kind of wrap up that part, all these files seem to be running on a PlayStation 4 dev kit, and these clips might be a few years old. A source with knowledge of GA6's development told PC Gamer, who reported on some of this, that the majority of the videos would likely have been attached to bug reports from QA testers. So there's also been fears that this might actually mess with work from home freedoms for Rockstar, which is very disappointing. Knowing that this leak was like all that beneficial anyway, it's like, don't really want something like this happening when it could have such an impact. But like, have you had much thoughts on it, Abir?
Like from what I saw, it looked like it animated pretty nicely. Like it was obviously the footage that I did see was, I think, like maybe it was from the diner scene or something, but it animated pretty well. Like it had the female character Lucia kind of was the one being played. Admittedly, by the time I think I got around to it, like most of the footage had been taken down, so I didn't get to actually see any of the footage itself. But like I skipped 5 because I don't know. I just found the characters. I think maybe the marketing and stuff like just seemed very problematic and just seemed like, I don't know. I think I was just kind of done with the fact that like I'm playing with like 3 kind of. They just represented different aspects of like masculinity that I'm just like, why, like, they just like all 3 of them like were douches but in different ways, and I'm just like, I don't find it appealing. I can just skip this one. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know.
Like a lot of GTA 5's story and character elements are like they really missed the mark for me.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, like this, like I don't know, who knows? Maybe like this might be one that I can get into, but I don't know. There are so many open world games and stuff now. Like, I still haven't even played The Witcher 3, so I'm like, I'd probably just play that. And also the fact that, like, that'll probably, at this stage, run pretty well on my computer versus, like, a brand new game that'll, maybe have to upgrade for.
Yeah. Yeah, this game won't melt my PC.
Yeah, exactly.
So after this leak, there was a lot of people online kind of taking it as ammo to kind of criticize the work kind of not understanding or not willing to understand that a lot of this is like so completely unfinished and so evidently unfinished. Because you see, again, like all the clips from what I've seen is just like very in development, very unfinished, and there's just like all these like text just popping up all over the screen with all these like incorrect colors, unfinished texture work, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously nothing about it is even close to being done or anything.
Yeah.
Or representative of any work at all. Anyway, this led to the main character of Twitter yesterday, kind of making a tweet that focused all attention on him or them. I don't know. Never know.
Like as in the
But
user called the main character.
Okay, that's just the running joke. Basically, like the running joke is that you don't want to be the main character of Twitter.
Oh, I was going to say, because like, yeah, because I don't even know where this quote came from. But
it came from this one dude who everyone suddenly noticed.
Yeah, just like, well, who the yeah, I just remember seeing, because I saw these other developers kind of share some stuff with Solidarity that I know you're going to talk about it, and I was just trying to figure out where it came from, this thing. So when you said the main character, I'm like,
I think there's like they weren't the only one saying this kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
This one was just especially funny.
Yeah.
So the tweet itself is, quote, "If you knew how game development goes, you'd know that visuals are one of the first things done. This game is 4 years into planning and development. What you see is almost exactly what you get. Next year is mission coding and debugging, all back-end stuff. It does look like ass." That's the whole tweet. And it's so like, I think the fact that it starts off, if you know how game development works.
It's like,
I feel like even like
wow.
a basic understanding of how it works, which is probably what we have as people who don't do it.
Yeah.
But even lesser, even people who don't follow stuff kind of tell it's like, yeah, that's not right.
Oh, 100%. I
So
don't know where they're pulling this out of. Like,
yeah. Yeah. So after that,
oh my god.
it was followed on by like a lot of game devs, like actual game devs, dunking on him. So a lot of them, people who worked on Control, Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted 4, Cult of the Lamb, just sharing images and videos of like, very in work in progress versions of their very pretty looking final games. Just to, yeah. So I guess that was a nice moment overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a silver lining in something that's could have unprecedented effects on a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But oh, that was something I forgot to mention as part of the leak, was that the leaker may also have claimed to have source code of GTA 6, which could have a big impact on if that ever gets out. That could like completely unravel the GTA Online and just Rockstar's like product line, as I understand it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of implications with that being a thing.
Well, and the worry there is like, when you have that many people working from home, that's that many, that many logins, that many file transfers and things. Like there's, with so many moving parts, like this I hope this doesn't become an excuse for managers at other companies to kind of force people to go back to working in an office. That's
So
it's scary.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, after this leak, Take-Two, like the publisher of Rockstar Games, their stock has dropped by more than 6% in the pre-market trading. I think it bumped up a little bit by the time that period ended. But yeah, so in an effort to kind of stop this fall, Take-Two confirmed in a statement that it did not expect the leaks to affect the game's development, and then expanded in another statement to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that said that, quote, "Rockstar Games recently experienced a network intrusion in which an unauthorized third party illegally accessed and downloaded confidential information from its systems, including early development footage. Current Rockstar Games services are unaffected. We're already taking steps to isolate and contain this incident. Work on this game will continue as planned." Basically trying to convince people that our product and overall, market,
nothing's on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, investors, which are scared, they could be scared by anything, but they're like, because that happens
especially
all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like this, this is a good example of going, oh, this could affect my money. I better pull out.
Mm.
But yeah, so there's there's also an analyst, Andrew Yerkowitz. Not sure how to pronounce that exactly. He told Reuters, quote, if the source code leaks, it can necessitate significant changes under the hood of the game to ensure stability and the server integrity of GTA 6 online once it launches, which is basically what I was trying to say earlier. So it's like if that's true, that could lead to like major consequences for a game that's already taken a long time to come out and has a lot of backing behind it.
Yeah.
Let alone any other game, really.
Yeah.
But
it's like yeah, this is probably like one of the worst things that could happen. Like to like anything that's in progress, like of this scale. Hopefully, I hope that if like the source code is revealed or something, I hope Rockstar doesn't turn around and be like, well, I guess we're starting from scratch now. Because that's
I'm not sure if they even can do that. Really, that probably just I'm not sure what they'll do.
Probably have to just plug the leaks whenever plug the hacks or whatever happens.
But I wonder, like, I don't know, like, I guess like other people would know better than either of us. But I wonder if like just how few options they have in a scenario like that.
I would wager that Take-Two Interactive would be like, whatever money you need to beef up your security and make sure that hackers and stuff don't like hackers or people don't cheat their way out of the inevitable kind of billions of dollars they'll make out of the new version of GTA Online. Will kind of mean that that's kind of taken care of, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and then on screen, I've got the message from Rockstar Games on Twitter, kind of acknowledging the leak, which yeah, it's there's not much to it. It's just kind of just acknowledging that, hey, that the leaked assets, the leaked videos, yeah, they're real. They are legit. So that's just kind of like the final, just confirmation that that I think people were still holding out saying, oh, maybe it's not GTA, and then it's like, no, it is.
Yeah, but talking about big changes in the game development scene.
Yeah, so we've had some pretty hectic news from the graphics card scene, which potentially could have a lot of impact on PC gamers, and then like people who are looking to build PCs or even try to get their hands on some secondhand stuff, because EVGA, which is one of NVIDIA's longest serving partners, has announced that it is pulling out of the graphics card manufacturing business. So, in short, NVIDIA doesn't. Well, until recently, NVIDIA is, you could say, like the most popular, like has got the largest market share of graphics cards, both like commercially and like for consumers. And the way they work is that they don't make the graphics cards themselves. They make kind of the GPU, the chip, kind of the chips that go on the graphics cards. And they rely on partners like ASUS, EVGA, MSI, Zotac, and other companies to actually do pretty much all the heavy lifting in terms of manufacturing, packaging, like marketing, and things like that. So what's happened is that this is on Saturday our time. YouTube channels Gamers Nexus, so Steve Burke from Gamers Nexus and Jason Langevin from Jay's 2 Cents, as well as a veteran, I guess, like GPU pundit. I don't know how to put him. Like, he's kind of like an expert. John Petty broke the news that EVGA has terminated its agreement with NVIDIA and is not going to be involved in manufacturing any new graphics cards. So the company's kind of cited, the company CEO kind of said that this was more a matter of, quote, principle rather than just straight like a financial decision. So according to Gamers Nexus, EVGA claimed that it made its decision based on a few different things. So, NVIDIA not providing any kind of indicative or like recommended retail pricing with any of its partners prior to the public announcement? Like, so to put that into perspective, like imagine like you're buying, manufacturing, and planning to release millions of units of these graphics cards. You may know how much it costs you to make and how much you're buying kind of some of the parts from your suppliers, but you don't actually know how much you can sell your end product for. Like that's a pretty big part of the financial kind of decision making that you're not given access to. So like as soon as like Jensen Huang, who's the CEO, sorry, the founder and CEO of NVIDIA, he gets up on stage, makes the announcement about the recommended retail price for the graphics cards, and it's like, oh, by the way, that's when you find out, and you're our closest working partners, which is I think it's pretty fucked up. Like
it's not like I don't know. It's like it's not fair to the process they're part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I guess what's happened is that I guess like as part of the crypto crash, that a lot of kind of graphics like EVGA and all of the kind of other partners that are manufacturing NVIDIA based graphics cards are kind of like taking a hit, like now having to sell a lot of graphics cards at loss because, you know, the used market's been flooded by all these cards that were designed for mining, and then now like they probably overcorrected, made too many cards because there was such a shortage for so long, and that now that demand has just like crumbled. Now they've got all this other inventory that they're trying to get rid of, and they're saying that they're potentially losing hundreds of dollars per card, like for like the 3080, 3080 Ti, 3090, and 3090 Ti, like those high end cards, like they're allegedly losing hundreds of US dollars per unit, which they're saying that, you know, NVIDIA doesn't necessarily NVIDIA doesn't necessarily feel that because a couple of generations ago, NVIDIA actually started making its own graphics cards based on its own like kind of chips. So then NVIDIA became a competitor to all of these partners, but NVIDIA, you know, probably doesn't make NVIDIA, doesn't cost as much to NVIDIA to manufacture these cards because, you know, they're not having to buy their own parts on themselves. You know what I mean? So they're potentially able to weather the storm a bit better. But the other thing is NVIDIA also employs and like restricts these partners with very strict price ceilings and price floors. So what's been happening most recently is that these Founders Edition cards, which are basically NVIDIA's own versions of their graphics chips, like the cards that feature their graphics chips of the current generation, are potentially selling sometimes lower than what the third parties are selling them for. So it's like, how are you meant to compete with that when the person you're buying the parts from is selling the final product against you, but cheaper than you can? You know, and that's
It reminds me of like how Amazon operates. Not that it's all that related. It's just, you know, just a big company pushing even harder on people who help make money for them.
Yeah, exactly. Because to be like, this is a partnership that goes back to the year 2000 when EVGA launched the first kind of like third-party coolers that could be attached onto NVIDIA graphics cards, and then from 2002, I think it was, that EVGA actually became a graphics card manufacturer. And allegedly, NVIDIA actually relied on EVGA, and I don't think this is like officially confirmed, but based on the fact that, you know, the designs of the circuit boards and the part numbers and everything were pretty much the same, that the reference board, so like the things that NVIDIA sends out to its development partners saying, hey, this is kind of like, think of this as the benchmark, this is what the standard product looks like, you can modify this to make your own creations. Like apparently some of those were actually made by EVGA. So like this is this is like a very messy divorce in a weird way.
Yeah.
And apparently the EVGA told Gamers Nexus that it told NVIDIA of its decision to withdraw from graphics card manufacturing in April, but that no one else except for senior management at either company actually knew about this until these YouTube videos and this John Petty article went live. So, like, employees are both, like, you know, I'd be freaking stressed if I was working in the graphics card team, like, at EVGA, because
That's a lot.
because according to what EVGA told Gamers Nexus, 78% of its gross revenue comes from graphics card sales, 20% comes from power supply sales, and then the last 2% comes from all the other products combined. So, like, imagine, like, you know, almost 80% of the money coming in is from that one department, and now that one department's gone. What's going to happen to all those people working in that department? Now, EVGA CEO says that he's not planning to let anyone go. He's planning to keep everyone employed. But at some point, you know, either people are going to be like, well, I want to work in a project that I, you know, believe in, that that I'm fulfilled in. So they're going to go somewhere else. Or eventually the people who are just kind of being paid out of good faith, but not really working on anything, at some point, you're going to start losing money on that, and you're going to have to cut them off. You know, like, it's I get the like, you know, the CEO, like, kind of saying this is like, we're doing this on principle. We don't want to work with such a toxic partner. But it's like that okay, fine. But what about your employees? You know, like,
I think there was like I can't say it for sure, but I remember when, like, looking into the story like a day or two afterwards.
Yeah.
I think there was some, like, the CEO did sort of confirm there were going to be employee losses,
yeah,
you know, coming soon or eventually or whatever. Like, I
as
don't know.
expected, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
But not
maybe he
that
said
any...
like he doesn't plan to lay off people off then, kind of,
Exactly.
like, in the moment with these
Yeah.
interviewers, more than, you know, because he sounds quite like a relatively passionate CEO for
Yeah.
someone in that position.
And
so it's yeah,
and he's
know.
getting old now. Like, he's like late 50s or early 60s, so he's getting old now. And it's like he also talked about, you know, allegedly talking about, you know, wanting to spend more time with family, and then just like that wasn't, like, it wasn't enough. Like, the working relationship with NVIDIA wasn't enough to kind of justify dedicating so much time and effort versus other projects. But it's like, then hire people to do that for you. You know, then you take a step back and be an advisor or something, you know, and then let someone else run the day-to-day and deal with all that shit if you want to spend more time with your family. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. It's like, because, like, when it first started, it's like, I think everyone wanted answers, and there weren't really any very satisfying ones.
No.
Just because it's like such an odd situation that is like, didn't really have like a clear, like, it has a motivation behind it, but not like, it's not much of a solution to that problem that it's being that's being outlined. So it's it's just kind of, because, like, from what I can tell, EVGA was like, had a very good reputation among people who
100%
know about this stuff more than I do.
Yeah,
like way more than the others.
I had an EVGA card previous to this one, and it was excellent. Like, yes, they had issues with not having adequate cooling on some of their, like, memory kind of, I think, like, power module, like, they're called VRMs. I think they're for, like, modulating power, controlling power. So what they did was they basically figured out a solution where they have, like, these thermal pads that they give out, and then they shipped it for free to all the customers who were affected, and saying, hey, here are instructions to open up your card and do this. You know, if you... And here are some clear instructions. Here's everything you need. It will honor your warranty and everything like that. So don't worry. Like, you know, if you break a seal to open it, like, don't worry about that. And that was actually pretty smooth. And like, the card ran great. Like, EVGA has some of the best warranty kind of schemes, and like warranty kind of policies. They were always like they had a reputation of being very consumer friendly. Now, according to John Petty's like kind of discussions with other partners like who spoke anonymously, saying that hey, maybe they're a bit too generous because like they were giving away too many things, or like they had a program called the Step Up program where if you bought a graphics card and say I think it was like within a certain like 30 days or something like that, if a new graphics card got announced, they would actually basically give you credit. You give your graphics card back and they'll give you the entire purchase price back as credit towards the equivalent on the of the new series. So it's like they're going out of their pocket to kind of like help people out like that. Like, and these people are talking about, that's kind of like, I think the quote was like suicidal, like kind of like a business model. And the other thing is also that I think unlike other add-in board partners like Asus and stuff, like EVGA does offload some of its manufacturing to other third parties. So, it meant that of the small margin you got from each graphics card, you'd have to dedicate some of that to other partners that your competitors may not need to do, and that's not necessarily NVIDIA's fault. That's just the way you're running your own company. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, but it's still
shitty.
Like it's still kind of something where it's like I still kind of come away from the story. I mean, maybe I still don't know enough, but I come away from it still thinking worse of NVIDIA than I do.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, this is very clever on EVGA's part because EVGA control the messaging, because EVGA, set up these interviews with these YouTubers and these people, and then they're the ones who created the reporting. It wasn't like a joint announcement. It wasn't like NVIDIA wasn't involved in kind of the dissemination of the information. So it's kind of like you have to, like, there's a bit of there's truth on both sides. So, like a few different like YouTube personalities and tech like journalists have kind of corroborated, I guess, like some of the claims that they've made in terms of it being difficult to work with NVIDIA. And that's not just this year, like that's from even years past. Even retailers like have had issues with kind of working with NVIDIA. And like this is kind of like the latest in it, but like for someone to make, this is sort of like a putting your money where your mouth is, like giving up almost 80% of your revenue every year because of the toxic working relationship. Like that's a pretty big move, like for any industry.
Yeah, it's like also, I'm not sure if he said it, but there was like a line here that says that he didn't want to work with AMD or Intel.
Yeah.
To not betray NVIDIA, which seems like a
contradictory. It was very weird.
Yeah, which maybe that's just a move to more like protect the company long term without him than it is.
Yeah.
To anything else. I don't know.
Yeah, because like maybe there's like some sort of like I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of like acknowledgement of the fact that yes, we aren't happy with the way things are, but we have also been a partner for so long. Or maybe there is like some sort of legal thing that he can't talk about just yet. That'll come to light in a future report, like a non-compete thing or something like that. Or maybe it's like because like sometimes like there are rules like kind of clauses in contracts when you terminate, saying like, okay, you don't work with us anymore, but because you're privy to a lot of private information and commercially sensitive information, means you can't work with a competitor for a certain amount of time. So who knows? Maybe he's also leaving the door open for like, yeah, you're right. Like maybe AMD and Intel, like working with them in the future, just not now, because I bet you either one of those companies would definitely benefit from like a veteran kind of like company like EVGA handling a lot of the manufacturing, especially
maybe
Intel.
That's the idea with like not like laying people off either. Maybe there is just, I don't know. Yeah. Now we're getting conspiratorial, I think. But like
like
I don't know.
Yeah. All we really know is the relationship was sour. How many of these claims can like 100% the way EVGA says, but like for what it's worth, like NVIDIA was just like, yep, like NVIDIA's statement was basically like, yep, good luck to you, and then that was kind of it. So it's not much. Let's just say NVIDIA had other things to focus on this week.
Yeah.
But just to close that story off, EVGA said that it has enough inventory and stock on hand to fulfill any warranty or repair or even replacement kind of claims through the end of the year, but don't expect any new stock to arrive on shelves for the 30 series, and definitely not for the 40 series. Even though like EVGA had gotten deep enough into the production kind of like planning to do kind of like these engineering samples of the 40 series cards. But if you see anything like that online, like those are very clearly like prototypes. They're not. It's not like, oh no, EVGA secretly had a stash of some cards. So that's just yeah, that'll wrap it up for that. Well, it's a developing story, so we'll find out more over the next kind of week or so. Yeah, but speaking of NVIDIA and major news, NVIDIA followed up a couple of days later by announcing the 40 series of its RTX graphics cards. So essentially, it's been every couple of years, NVIDIA seems to roll out a new series of graphics cards that, sometimes don't actually change that much in terms of performance, but sometimes actually make a huge difference when it comes to performance compared to the previous generation. This time around, NVIDIA's announced they've announced the RTX 4090, so that takes up the top slot, the 4080 16 gig, and then the 4080 12 gig. Now, that's all well and good on paper until you actually look at the specs, and then you realize that the 4090 to the RTX 4080 is a huge jump in the processing cores, or CUDA cores as they're called. Like compared to just over 16,000 on the 4090, you're going to just under 10,000 on the 4080, which kind of indicates that there's going to be like a 4080 Ti that kind of sits in between. Plus, you're going from 24 gigs of GDR6X memory to 16 gig on the highest spec 4080. So you could see like a 20 gig model that kind of slides in there, like a 3080 Ti, or even like a I don't know, 4090 20 gig. That's like a cut down version. Now, where it gets interesting is that the 4080. So if the 4090 is the top, so the 90 series, the 90 Ti is kind of like the top. Then the 80 series is kind of like the high-end enthusiast. Then the 4070 or whatever it's going to be called, then is kind of like your... Think of it this way. 4090 is like super ridiculous money-hungry people. The 4080 is like... Think of that as being like great for a 4K screen. The 4070 being like 1440p, and then 4060 being like a 1080 and going lower and lower. So the interesting thing here is that the 4080 is split into two types. Now they're both called the RTX 4080, but one has 16 gigs of RAM, one has 12 gigs of RAM. But that's not just it. There's also like a 20% reduction in a roughly 20% reduction in the number of processing cores they have. So not only will you have, like 25% less memory to work with, you're going to have 20% less like effective processing power technically to work with. So this 4080, so if you're going to the shop and you're not super up on what's happening, you just look at the 12 gig, the 16 gig, you're like, oh, I don't necessarily need the 16 gig card, I'll just go for the 12 gig because everything else is the same. Until you look on the back of the box and then you see the fine print. This is... I think this is really frustrating, because ideally it would just be like, okay, that's the 4090, the 4080, and the 4070, right? That'll just make it easy. I know which one it is going to be. But I think the speculation online is that because of the fact that the price of the 4080, the 12 gig version, is so high, if you called it a 70 series, which implies mid-range from the way that NVIDIA's kind of had its kind of product tiers for the last like few generations, people might gawk at the price and not want to buy it. So that's kind of like the speculation happening online. Now, in terms of pricing, here's what we'll be expecting to pay here in Australia. So this is from Kotaku Australia. This was confirmed shortly after the announcement. So in Australia, for the RTX 4090, the recommended retail price is $2,959. So, which and in the US it's $1,599, which if you translate means that we're paying just over $550 more in Australia versus if you do like a 1-to-1 USD to AUD conversion, right? So the Australia tax is back in full effect here apparently. The RTX 4080 16 gig model is $2,219 in Australia, and which is and $1,199 in America. So we're paying just over $400 more with like the Australia tax. And then if you look at the RTX 4080, the 12 gig version, that's going to retail for $1,659 in Australia versus $899 in the US, which is only just over $300 more of like a discrepancy. So that's a bit more kind of like reasonable. Now, they're not cheap. You know what I mean? None of them are cheap, but it's like I don't know. Like I think graphics cards are getting more and more expensive, more and more power hungry, like, and just like I don't know. Like NVIDIA promises like 4 times performance in the graphics, like in some like controlled situations, but we're gonna have to wait until like the actual kind of like final analysis happens, because that's where we're gonna actually see like third independent kind of tests being done. The other thing to kind of that NVIDIA announced alongside all of this was the fact that there's going to be much more performance when it comes to ray tracing, because this will be the 3rd generation that's built around ray tracing, and they've got 3rd gen RT cores. So like some of those CUDA cores I mentioned before are going to be dedicated to ray tracing doing in real time, which means that lights are actually created and dynamically lit up versus like they're actually lit up as like rays of light as like much more closer to how light works in real life versus things that are kind of like faked, like approximated, or kind of like you kind of like, oh, this light is always in one position, and no matter where you are, it'll just light things up the same way. That's why like when you play like a game like Last of Us or something, and you're technically in like a shadow area, there's some sort of weird glow around like a box or something, even though it should technically be in shadow. It's just that the way the lighting works, it just doesn't line up with how it works in reality, you know. And when you have ray tracing, you might visually see that, okay, there's a lamppost here, so if I move this direction, the lighting should change, and it'll realistically change. Things would realistically be in shadow rather than having like weird lighting coming out of like kind of that seemingly doesn't make sense. Like there's no light. It's one of those things that's very difficult to explain, but when you see videos of ray tracing working, you'll actually understand how it works. So that's like another big area of improvement. So ray tracing performance on top of regular performance, and then a new version of DLSS, which they call it DLSS 3. So DLSS is basically deep learning super sampling. Essentially, instead of running an image, say, at 4K, like as it is, you run it at a lower resolution and then just kind of scale it up using like algorithms, right? So it just means that as far as your computer is concerned, it's the game's running at 1080, but then it's using software tricks to stretch the image and make it look like it's 4K. So it's just like a way to cheat to get, you know, decent looking graphics at good frame rates, at a high resolution. And apparently, like this is like there's new instruction sets, there's new kind of programming here that wasn't possible on the previous hardware. So that's why this is a bigger jump from, say, what happened with the RTX 30 series from a couple of years ago versus what happened from like the original 20 series moving to the 30 series, which is like not as big of a jump. So you're going from version 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah, from a quote I sort of found here, it says DLSS 3 now generates entirely new frames through the use of optical flow, motion vectors, and deep learning. 7 out of 8 pixels being rendered with DLSS 3 come from neural rendering.
Yeah,
So it sounds like a big jump in how they actually
yeah,
render things now.
yeah. Like they're actually creating entirely new images rather than taking an existing image and kind of duplicating it and like filling in gaps and stuff. So, once again, time will tell how this will really work. Like we won't get the RTX 4090 is scheduled to be released next month, worldwide. Well, in the US and Australia, which is probably where most of our listeners are. With the 4080 cards expected later in the year, so expect them to be like November, December. However, if it's anything like what happened with the RTX 3080, the 30 series, I don't know, because like there was so much of a shortage of graphics cards from the 30 series launch onwards that it's like they never sold. They didn't actually sell for retail price on a wide scale until this year, or like 2 years after they came out. And that's partly because the crypto boom crashed, and people are like kind of. The biggest part of that was that Ethereum, which is one of the big kind of like stable coins, went from a proof of work model to a proof of ownership. So you could just kind of do your own mining and then generate Ethereum. Now that's no longer available. You have to actually show that you purchased it from somewhere. So then all these people who bought all these graphics cards and were like buying them like as soon as they came in stock were now have kind of offloaded all those extra GPUs they were using because they don't need them anymore, and that's kind of flooded the used market, which has meant that there's more supply than demand, and so new graphics cards prices have plummeted as well. So I think,
so
yeah,
so you'll probably get lucky and be able to buy a 4090 at $2,400 in Australia.
at a reasonable price apparently.
Yes. Yeah, on prices, I have
yeah.
this. There was another thing where the CEO, Jensen Huang, he had a Q&A session where he mentioned how when he was discussing these extreme prices of the GPUs, that he mentioned, that was a quote. He says, the 3080 was and still is great value and it'll continue to live on, which kind of implies they're going to start creating more of a hierarchy that remains rather than, I think that's how it works. Like rather than currently, it kind of, one generation is completely replaced by the next one.
Yeah.
So that might explain.
And there's still a lot of stock around.
Pricing.
And there's still like a lot of stock around, and the thing is like the jump from 10 series to 20 series wasn't that big. But the for like non-ray tracing games, but the jump from 20 series to 30 series was huge. Like you had a mid-range card outperforming the top of the range card that came out 6 months before at like a third of the price. Well, at retail price. Now it's like they're claiming something similar, but we'll see how it actually pans out. Like for me, like the RTX 4080 12 gig is probably the sweet spot from price to performance, but it's just like trying to figure out how much it'll actually be and how readily available it'll be. Because let's not forget that the chip shortage still hasn't finished. Like we're still struggling. Like companies are still struggling to develop, like to put microchips in cars and things like that. It's affecting everyone. But yeah, so that will hopefully. We'll learn more about like the mid-range cars like the 4070 and the 4060. It'll be probably early next year because that's generally how NVIDIA does it, like starts from the top down. But later this year, I think it's in November, I think we're expecting to hear about AMD's RDNA 3 cards. So the RDNA 2 cards are their current generation that seem to have like kind of like equalized. Like they're not as good, but they've equalized with NVIDIA, whereas they used to be way behind before. But now, hopefully, with the RDNA 3, they're going to be at least equal, if not better, in a lot of these games, and potentially better price because that's the huge. That's I think the thing that's going to matter to most people.
Yeah, definitely. But wrapping up NVIDIA, Got a bunch of little smaller stories.
Yeah.
That we'll go through quick.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, EA, their studio Motive Studios and Marvel Games are now working on an Iron Man game that they've sort of technically announced without much detail. A few, I mean, there's a bit of detail. So in collaboration with Marvel Games, this Iron Man game will be a single-player, third-person action-adventure title. It's currently in pre-production, which means it's pretty far off, especially for a game being developed in 2022. It's probably going to take 5 years. The game development team is being led by executive producer Olivia Prue. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the LX at the end. He previously worked on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy at Eidos Montreal.
Yeah.
And EA has also said this is the first of several new games being created with Marvel. So this kind of harkens back to a previous report, which I think we mentioned on the podcast at one point, that EA is apparently making a single-player open-world Black Panther game that is in the early stages of development at a new studio headed by Kevin Stevens. So he was the former boss at Monolith, the developer who made Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor and a number of other games. So yeah, so EA is in the Marvel business now, alongside
apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently now.
Yeah. But it's not the last EA thing, I guess. With FIFA.
Yeah, we had I was gonna say, let me get that trailer up in the background. So this kind of like, it was rumored and then like kind of got announced not long after, is that Ted Lasso of the Ted Lasso TV show, as well as AFC Richmond, which is the fictional football/soccer club that he coaches in the show, is coming to FIFA 23. So it's you'll see like you'll see a virtual likeness of Ted Lasso in the game, complete in all its robotic animated glory, as well as the team, like the team and their likenesses from the show as well. So you know our favorites like Roy Kent, Jamie Tart. I was gonna say, what's the Mexican guy's name? The Mexican player. I forgot his name. And then you got Sam Obasanya. Like you've got like kind of all the favorites that you're looking for from the show are in the game. So that's going to be a huge. That's going to be really. It's a really fun thing for like FIFA and Ted Lasso fans because the show's brilliant. Like it's such a good show. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Like Ted Lasso has like a huge proportion of audience that doesn't know anything about soccer though.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering quite what the cross section is. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of soccer fans who will care, but
yeah.
I wonder.
I can tell you that people like they love it. They love both because like if you're into football, you can kind of like you pick up on the like kind of the references and like how some things are totally like if you know more about like football/soccer, you get more out of it because you understand how much of a fish out of water he is. Whereas like if you don't, like there's a lot of humor there that you'll get, but there's just some things that are just like funnier if you know the context of like how ridiculous the things he's suggesting on how big of a change it is coming to it. But yeah, it's a really good show. It's great characters, great acting. It's like it's bloody awesome. But yeah, we've got some more news happening, and this time from PlayStation, and potentially a former boss moving over to the ever-increasing tyrant that is Tencent.
Yeah. I feel like tyrant sounds like, I need to...
Let's say Megacorp. I don't know. Zaibatsu.
Yeah,
what should we say?
Yeah. I was thinking it's like, we can't get slightly sued over that, can we? I mean, no, we can't. But anyway, the former executive at PlayStation, Sean Layden, he left Sony in 2019. So it's been a few years, but he has joined Tencent, the games publisher, as a strategic advisor. He announced the move on LinkedIn, as reported by GameIndustry.biz. Layden said he is, quote, he is to, quote, advise, assist, and support the team at Tencent as they deepen their activities and commitments within the industry. So this isn't the first like strategic advisory role he's taken as well, or consulting role. So he's taken another one at least Streamline Media Group. So this is kind of, I guess this is just a thing he's doing now, being a more of an advisor in a large scale sense, which is kind of smart. It makes sense for someone who's been in his position. But yeah, it's more people going to Chinese corporations. Like, is NetEase also Chinese? I think it is.
I think NetEase is Korean.
Oh, it is. Okay,
I think so. I'll find out actually.
Asian gaming mega.
It is Chinese as well.
Okay.
Huh.
Oh yeah, I wanted to also say, because I forgot to put it on the news, there was like the game we mentioned last week, Stellar Blade.
Yes.
It went on. We're not going to discuss it now.
That used to be called Project Eve for folks at home.
Yeah. That game is not Chinese; it's Korean. I was very wrong about that.
Really?
For that.
Oh.
But also, I totally forgot about it. We would have discussed it otherwise, but it's kind of undergoing a bit of a being called out for its very significant sexist practices, which is apparently very common in Korea right now. So I won't get into it now. I just kind of wanted to mention that I was wrong about it being Chinese.
Okay, it's South Korean. Gotcha. No, good. That's some journalistic integrity right there. That's professionalism there, John. Thank you.
Fixing something a week later.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, could you imagine a world where a company like Tencent buys PlayStation from Sony?
I don't know. I guess I'm not sure. Like, I feel like Tencent are kind of happy being spread out.
Yeah, they own they own like half of, I think, Epic Games. They own outright Riot Games. Like, they've got their finger in a lot of different pies. And just last week, they just earlier this month, I think it was, they took over they got just under 50% stake in the company that the Guillemot brothers, who own and run Ubisoft and Gameloft, they just took under just under 50% of their company. So they've got like 18% or something of Ubisoft as well. So they're definitely spreading themselves throughout.
Yeah, I might be. Maybe I'm underselling because I feel like they're more happy to get pillars of the game industry and not necessarily like relatively foundational ones like Sony. Like, as in, like, when you get like Epic or LoL, like, you're kind of getting money-making factories.
Yeah.
With a lot of brand potential. Where I think with PlayStation doesn't really offer the same thing.
Yeah.
But maybe, I guess. I don't know. Depends on what they want to get.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Imagine a world like that. Because, I mean, Sony as a company, the PlayStation division has been kind of them, and I think their movie division is kind of keeping them going. So I wonder, would Sony part ways? It has to be I mean, if PlayStation bought Bungie for billions of dollars, then Tencent would have to front so much more to make that offer worth it to Sony. So I wonder if it'll be prepared to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Could you imagine?
Well, the other thing is that it's I don't think, is Sony still. Oh, we're talking out of our ass so much. But I was thinking about where because I know Japan has pretty strict laws about companies being purchased or private, it wants to be purchased by Japanese companies generally, and there's a lot of laws protecting the kind of acquisitions that happen in America, as well as the idea that a Chinese company can go take a Japanese or American one.
Yeah,
it's I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more. Even Microsoft's having a lot of trouble with. Well, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But having trouble with Activision, and that's just an American company eating up another one.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Because think of it this way, could be a scenario where it's okay, PlayStation just offloads all its Japanese assets to be run by PlayStation of America, right? But you're definitely sure, politically, the American people, and probably the government would intervene on a Chinese, organization purchasing such a huge American, by then American brand. And then if you go to Europe, say they transfer everything to Europe, Europe has pretty strong anti-competitive laws, and and like and Britain also doesn't have a good relationship with China, so it'll be like, yeah, I guess it's not likely, but I guess stranger things have happened. So this is
I
just
guess
like
when they
all
bought Epic,
speculation.
kind of, it's like, I guess, and and Riot, they're both American companies.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I guess I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I guess hopefully
yeah.
it doesn't happen. I'm sick of these stories. But yeah. Anyway, in terms of lots of money,
Yeah, in terms of lots of money and potentially shady companies, uh, Robert Space Industries, so the company that I think it was Chris Roberts set up. So Robert Space Industries, which kind of functions as a publisher for Cloud Imperium Games, which is the developer of Star Citizen and Squadron 42, has announced that it has now raised more than 500 million US dollars in crowdfunding since launching its first crowdfunding campaign back in, I say it's 2011 now.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a bit.
Yeah, it's because I remember trying to like get in on the Kickstarter and missing out on that because like I don't know, some logistical thing happened, and then there was I think it was Hurricane Sandy, the one that hit New York. I think it was Hurricane Sandy, but yeah, I know that happened, and then like it meant that they couldn't like get all their customer service. Like pretty much everyone who was in customer service and stuff was like based in New York or around there, so like there was a delay in things getting processed, and I think it just never happened. So maybe I dodged a bullet, but for some reason, apparently 100 million of this. So this is like from TechSpot. So according to TechSpot's report, about $100 million of the total $500 million that's been raised over the past decade has been since last November.
Whoa.
Like, so clearly, like we joke about this being like
that actually
unfinished
makes me
game,
wonder.
and
Does that include like buying access to the current build?
technically that is still crowdfunding because it isn't.
Yeah.
It's technically still. I don't even think they call it early access. It's like whatever their thing is. Like you're buying. Yeah, it's alphas. You're buying you're buying access to the alpha.
Yeah.
And ships and things like that. It's very
The ship part
yeah.
is the shady part because like I'll say it's like I've been somewhat knowing that I've been I don't know, no one's been the target of this thing that I'm talking about, but I have been like somewhat personally defensive of this game for a while because it's like it is being made, they are releasing versions of it, and it is being actively developed, but it took me a while. Like I still don't think when people call it a scam, I think that's the incorrect use of that term. But I understand why people want to use it. But it's like also, like I guess I'm not an expert anyway, but it is starting to it has reached a ridiculous point where they're selling virtual ships for thousands of dollars at a time.
Tens of thousands, man. It's
yeah, like just absurd. And people are just so deep into it, and that they're buying it and they're spending all this money, and it's like they've got these like whales that are just absurd, and like it is because people were already suspicious years ago when they started doing this stuff.
Yeah,
and it's just the fact that it's only gotten so much worse over time is worrying. Even though I think at least it's not total vaporware, I guess.
That's the thing.
Like from what I understand, the game itself is like legitimately impressive. And without this sort of model, it might not have been possible to kind of pull off the stuff they've been able to pull off. But it probably will take another decade or so before it's even close to getting done.
Yeah.
So I'm not really happy with the result in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's
let's not kid ourselves here. Like it may not be a scam, but there's a lot of money being sent out for something that hasn't technically come out.
Yeah, it's definitely exploitive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, but it's like I feel like, but then the people who are investing all this money, they're super into it. Like, surely they know, like, what they're paying for is like an alpha or like a working, like a pre-release build. Like that, maybe they just know that it's never. Maybe they know it's never going to actually come out as a full game. It's just
Well,
they
it's like,
just
as I understand it, people like genuinely
part of
like
the
playing the current version
yeah
of it and stuff. Like, there's a lot of people playing it, which I think
yeah
is the reason it got 100 million in the last year.
yeah.
Is like because people are like buying access to it and enjoying it, which I don't blame them. It's like I have like the problem I have with it is the ship selling part. Like
Yeah.
that's the part that's really
That's
exploiting
dodge.
people for their money
And
rather than
yeah, and it's like I have kind of that thing with like on a smaller scale, obviously, like to what is it, multiverses doing the same thing, but at least with multiverses, it's a free to play game, and I don't know, and it's nowhere near.
that rare. Like,
But the
there's
thing
lots of
is,
games doing that stuff.
yeah, but it's like I just like the game is technically in early access and stuff, but it's like how can you how can you how can you charge for battle pass? How can you how can you have battle passes and stuff for something that's technically not out? You know what I mean? Like it's still a beta. Like just say it's out. You know, like
Yeah.
I think morally, I think I'm opposed to it. I understand that, you know, like legally it may not be wrong, but it's like morally or ethically, I feel like there should be, you know, like a little bit more oversight there. But hey, I'm old. I'm grumpy. What do you expect? Apparently.
You're an ancient 30 years old.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. But yeah, that's for that. You know, some other shady practices and people gambling with their money. In talking about that, let's move over to the world of Twitch.
Yeah. We'll see how much I can kind of get into it. It's kind of like a long saga that we're not going to get into deeply.
Yes, there's an entire different side
kind
to
of-
this that we're not going to get into.
Yeah, like if you do, trigger warning of sexual assault descriptions and a number of actions surrounding those things. But we'll just focus on the primary functional, I suppose, changes coming to Twitch soon or immediately. So first off is as part of this whole shady saga that we won't get into.
You can say that.
Yeah, is the banning of gambling streams on Twitch, which has been a long time coming because there's been nothing. Yeah, talking about like unethical or amoral sort of things for a business to accept or get into. This has been one of those, like the idea that Twitch has for a long time hosted gambling streams is like such a obviously not okay thing for Twitch to do among the other things they've already had their hands in. But yeah, so basically as a change to their like I'm not sure exactly the phrase for their like policy. Twitch has banned major gambling sites, so slots, roulette, or dice games, and the like. These sites also include Stake and others. Like in their statement, they highlight sites like Stake, Rollbit, Duelbits, and Roobit, among others, that Twitch may identify as policy is rolled out. So, but it does focus. It does like the statement does highlight that these sites are ones that aren't licensed in the US or other jurisdictions that provide sufficient consumer protection. So this doesn't necessarily ban gambling altogether. Technically, maybe there are other sites set in the US that are just as exploitative, and Twitch would just be just as happy to take on.
Yeah.
I think this sounds like it's more about protecting Twitch legally.
Yeah.
And potentially publicly, but or maybe it's just because they're a US based sort of thing that I don't know. I mean, they're obviously happy enough with it anyway, so whatever. But
yeah.
The statement also notes that the websites focusing on sports betting, fantasy sports, and poker will still be allowed. So it sounds like there's still a lot of gaps.
If it's legal in the US, it'll probably still be on Twitch. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
it sounds like it could have the same problems because there's like all these streamers that have made millions of dollars moving to Canada, and gambling with odds that benefit them, and the company they're attached to.
Yeah.
It's like everything about it is so exploitive and gross.
And that's the thing, like this was all spurred by several prominent YouTubers getting together after they basically found out that they were being scammed by like another Twitch personality to kind of like scammed out of money that person then used to fund their like kind of, I think it was a Counter Strike or like some other online betting kind of like game betting addiction, and then those people complaining that they got duped and that Twitch wasn't doing enough around gambling, and then this kind of came out of that. But even this here, like this to me, I'm speculating here, but this to me reads more like the legal team were like, we're doing what now? Like, what are we, dude, guys, we can't show these things because these aren't licensed in the US. We were a US based company. We could potentially be liable for things like that. So let's start off by saying, you know, we're cutting ties with these specific sites because they're not licensed. You know, potentially, and then PR is like, oh, that could also make us look good and make us sound like this is the first step in an anti-gambling or whatever kind of process. But I don't know. Maybe that's my cynical. If I put my double cynical hat on, it's just
yeah. I think part of it might also be like a big part of it might be publicly, because it reminds me of like I was listening to something the other day that was saying how the reason Kiwi farms that really like it's basically a forum dedicated to doxing people. Like the reason that got taken down was because it was starting to get like public awareness of it was starting to get to the point that they couldn't realistically like Cloudflare, the company that
the hosting company.
Hosting company, that's right.
Yeah,
the hosting company, like they couldn't realistically defend themselves to a more professional and neutral interviewer or something like that. Like the example I heard was like if New York Times came and talked to them about like Cloudflare about like they couldn't really defend themselves against like keeping this company keeping this sideline. And that's like this sounds like it's a company where it's like if once people start like on a larger level becoming more aware that Twitch is hosting a number of people that are selling gambling to kids, because that is literally what's happening, and or just getting people into gambling, let alone being children, which is I'm sure is happening exactly, you know, whatever. It's like there's a low level this goes to.
And
like I bet it's like my bet would be just talking about gambling would be that it's publicity as well as legality, because it's hard to imagine this being all that on the level, you know.
And like in countries, and the thing is like over the past few years we've had that discussion about, you know, gambling and video games, like a lot of the loot box or like the kind of random roll mechanics and things like that constituting gambling. And like in some countries like Belgium, those mechanics, like loot boxes, aren't even included. Like you can't even get them in those games in those countries. So what if like this extends, like, you know, part of this, some of the countries in the European Union are like, well, we consider these video game mechanics to be equivalent of slots or, you know, Russian or roulette or like a dice roll. So bang, like you can't stream Overwatch in a particular country because, like, you know, they constitute gambling, and then that starts spreading. Like, you know, that because like I don't know, it's a complicated situation. I wonder what's going to happen from here. What's going to I wonder what's going to be announced next. Are they going to extend it to all forms of gambling, whether it's licensed in the US or not?
Yeah, definitely interested to see how it pans out, I think.
Yeah.
But that policy update will arrive on October 18, so we've still got about a month of this stuff existing, I suppose.
Get your bets in now. Yeah, apparently.
Aside from the gambling ban, there's also been a change to share the like revenue sharing structure on Twitch. I won't go too far into this. This basically means that a number of top streamers were originally offered a 70-30 kind of sweetheart deal for their like subscription cut, where the neutral, like for everyone else it was originally 50-50. This is basically changing, like as I think they're like like Amazon/Twitch have been kind of public about saying we're going to change this because we want to make more money. I think it's basically the gist of it.
Yeah.
And basically what's happened is that they've kind of, even though everyone on their like official forums have said, please change it to 70/30 for everyone, they've done the exact opposite and made it 50/50 for everyone to a degree, aside from the top. So yeah, so like it basically ends with streamers that are already with this kind of premium deal, they get to keep 70% of their first $100,000, which is not a small amount of money. And then after that, they'll be defaulted to the 50/50 revenue split. And this will be happen after June 2023. And yeah, so they're making less money than they already did.
Yeah.
And there's also, as like their solution to this new deal they're getting, they're shifting the revenue for ad revenue. They're changing the sharing model for that to something where it's percentage-based revenue. I'll be back. Revenue share model that gives streamers 55% of revenue for every ad they run, instead of a payment model that was like every 1,000 ad impressions they get. So basically, they'll get paid at least. Twitch says that streamers will get paid 50 to 150% more for advertising, but we'll see if that actually pans out. And ultimately, I suppose this mostly hits top streamers, absolutely, and people who already probably make a fair bit of money, but probably spend a lot of their life on Twitch doing so. So I don't know, but it's still not. I'm still not really, not really sure I should feel like supportive of Twitch in any sense, regardless.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, so it's like, we heard you. You said make things more fair, pay more to all creators, not just your top creators. We've heard you. What we're going to do is we're going to pay the top creators less, and everyone else, we're just going to keep you as you are. When it says, for 90% of streamers on standard agreements, the change will not affect them. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, God. And it's just like saying, at the time of this posting, this is a quote from, the blog post that's attributed to Dan Clancy, the CEO, the current CEO of Twitch. At the time of this posting, more than 20,000 of you have weighed in on user voice, asking us to move all streamers to 70/30 and to pay streamers faster. Let's chat about the latter part first. It's like, what the hell, man? I get it. I get it. Twitch wants to make more money, and this is like the most dumbest way to do it. Like, this is like, I don't know. This is just like very blind. Like, this is. It's not blind because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's
like hopefully
God.
the ad revenue change leads to more money for people that, in the mid and low level streamers.
Yeah.
Who are trying to make a living, or just any money really. It's like that would be, hopefully that's exactly what happens. But as I understand it, like the way that ads have been integrated in Twitch over time has like really hurt them already because of how much it
gets in the way of the user experience.
Streams. Yeah. So it's like none of this sounds ultimately like, it's not really a net positive sort of. Well, it's definitely not a net positive, I guess. But it's like, I don't know. It's not like I'm not someone who spends much time on Twitch to begin with. But I mean, maybe I would have if things are a bit different anyway. But it's
so it's like long story short, expect more ads on Twitch, and larger streamers who were incentivized to run less ads because they would get more of the revenue from just subs, and by having a larger following, they would have more subs. Now expect them to have more ads on their streams. They're just going to be incentivized to run more ads and still ask for subs to make up for the lost revenue. So it's like, like, I mean, I'm not going to be sympathetic to to creators who earn hundreds of thousands of dollars anyway, but it still sucks because so many people. Like, the great thing is that like democratized entertainment like Twitch, like YouTube and stuff, has made a lot of immensely creative people and talented people, like gotten them an audience that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten, like even like 10 years ago, like even 15 years ago. Like think about the only media you could really be successful on was like the radio, TV, or film, right? Now you've got another, or like obviously written media, but like now you've got all these other ways that like someone sitting in their bedroom could, you could be someone who's like there's someone on there's like a YouTuber called Todd in the Shadows who's like a music critic. I think he's got like social anxiety and stuff, so he doesn't like showing his face. So his whole gimmick is that he's in like in a hoodie in the in the shadows, and he talks about music and stuff. Like that type of personality would have never survived on TV or anything like that. And like the medium of YouTube and things allowed for someone like that to be successful. It's like now it's like kind of Twitch is now becoming just like the big corporations. You know what I mean? I mean, it is now. Like Amazon owns it, but like there was still kind of that sense of like, okay, we're still all about the creators and stuff. And now that's just withering away every announcement like this.
Yeah. Now it's just like there's no competitors anymore because Mixer didn't work at all.
Mixer.
I guess YouTube's
Mixer
there as well, but YouTube seems to have its own sort of corner that doesn't
its own
really
problems.
cross over with. Yeah, that too. But it also doesn't seem to have all that much crossover with Twitch anywhere.
Yeah.
From how things have played out. So it's like, oh, what I'm saying. But it's like
there's no really anywhere else to go. Is that
yeah,
in short.
It's like
Facebook gaming.
Yeah,
everyone knows Facebook gaming.
I always forget that exists and that it's like extremely popular with people that I don't listen to or hear or anything. Like,
yeah,
I like always forget how gigantic a deal that really is. But
yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just like based on what has been kind of like the perception of what like of all the opinionated people on Facebook over the last like 3-4 years. But like I feel like since 2016 when Trump came into power and then during COVID, I feel like the type of people who go live on Facebook, maybe questionable personalities there.
They're talking to their phone while they're driving.
Yeah.
Yelling about something conservative.
Exactly. And it's like, so I don't know if like if that extends to Facebook gaming, but I don't know, like could you imagine like because like when Mixer shut down, basically Microsoft made a deal with Facebook to kind of like transition people over from Mixer, like their accounts and their subs over to Facebook gaming.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so there was like kind of like a deal like that in place. Could you imagine like the people who worked on Mixer and like by all means like creators liked Mixer and it was very creator friendly. I wonder if those people right now are just like, oh my god, if we just made it one more year, we could have, we could have done an Epic Games and been like, oh, we're gonna go the other way. We're gonna give everyone 80-20, or you know what I mean? Like, they'll be like pulling their hair out right now.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Who knows?
But it's like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That kind of wraps up everything on Twitch, everything in gaming this week, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Let's have a little fun and talk about some fun general chit chat topics after this. So, John, you've been playing some Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, it's a game that was very popular 10 months ago when people found out about it. And then, I don't know. No, I'm sure it's still very popular. But it's a PC roguelike arcade game. It was, I think, originally used a lot of Castlevania sprites, like not legally. Like I think there was a lot of, but it's kind of like a top-down. I guess you can almost call it like Diablo, except a lot of it is like automated, and a lot of it is like it feels very reminiscent of Risk of Rain and Binding of Isaac to an extent, where it's a lot about finding synergies, like the joy of finding new synergies and then creating builds out of them and using new characters that have their own unique traits. And then as you get further and further into the game, it kind of unlocks new mechanics on top of a lot of this stuff. and new items and so on and so forth. But basically, it just like completely eats my time. It is completely designed to get in your brain and lock you down for hours at a time in a way that I haven't actually experienced in a little while. Like
Yeah.
it as a roguelike, because roguelikes are typically good at that. You know, Binding of Isaac feels like one of the original ones, and that it could really hook you in for chunks of time, and they just, you know, all your time just gets eaten up by it. So I have played it for 20 hours already, and I started playing on Saturday. So
Holy
already,
shit!
yeah,
You
like 'cause
maniac.
it's a really good podcast game. It's really good
Yeah,
to have.
I can picture that.
Like it's very like mechanical, and it's also like, oh no, it's very like, it doesn't have anything audio. Like it has music,
Yeah,
but you're not really doing anything.
but there's no like
other than-
cutscenes or like dialogue. That's like kind of things you have to pay attention to.
Yeah,
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
It's also it's extremely like direct in how it plays, and it's, oh, you can, I don't know, you can kind of turn your brain off to an extent, to the point where you can fully listen to something else or whatever, something like that. So
Yeah.
I have been completely hooked on it.
There's a vibe to it of like a roguelike meets twin stick shooter meets like a bullet hell game meets
Yeah, except with the twin stick shooter thing, it's like, you're not, like, it's more like a single stick shooter.
Yeah.
The shooting happens regardless.
Yeah.
You're like, it'll like some weapons will like shoot depending on where you're facing, but a lot of them don't. So a lot of it is about movement, and it's like, it reminded me a lot of a Musu game, because the only one I have still played is Berserk, and that one is a really low level one, as I understand it. But as we've explained before, the way those games work is like, it's less about the action and more about getting you into position on the map somewhere at the right times. It's like, it's almost like a tactical game, as I understand it, because I haven't actually played a true one yet. But like, this one's like a really easy, simplistic version of that, where it's like, you got this gigantic map, and the stuff is like, you know, kind of like power ups are highlighted on the map, and it takes forever to get there. Like in any given, like you'll move upwards in a map to get somewhere, and you'll be there like 3 minutes later.
Yeah.
Because it just takes too long, and that's that's by design. As like, basically, it's like there's that element to it as well. I don't know. I'm not sure how much more I can explain about it, other than that it's structured and designed in a way that really hooks you in if the gameplay appeals to you in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think it's $5 now, $5 versus the $3 it was like a week ago. So it's extremely cheap as well.
I think this could be great on phones when it comes.
It really would.
I think once it gets like full release, it'll come. It has to. Like,
I was surprised at how much the sprites are just Castlevania, because I was thinking about it like afterwards, like, wait, some of these sprites are like straight up the same, even though apparently they've changed it since.
Changed like one hexadecimal value for the red that they're using or something.
Yeah, maybe, because ultimately it's a homage game, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's like creating a Castlevania game in this specific type of genre and design, which I think is a fun idea. It would be cool if it was a Castlevania tie-in, but it's because like everything about it is designed to be, it's just for people who don't have that ability to.
Yeah. I'll just fun fact, like when you search, like for me, when you search Vampire Survivors in Google, it says related searches, the first thing that comes up is Vampire Survivors free. It's like, like, come on, people.
Yeah, that's well, I don't know. I mean, no, like I do know, like, they should pay for it because it's very cheap.
Yeah, like, come on. It's like one person working on it. Like, yeah. Anyway.
But I think it's done very well, considering the like explosion of articles and coverage it got initially, like last year or the start of the year or so.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been playing a lot of last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. But you've been watching things as well. Well, something.
Yeah. So this is a kind of a new one, because I watched it last 2 days, which is Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai, which is a currently running shonen, kind of traditional hero's journey style anime, which is a sort of reboot of an old anime / manga. because I haven't looked
Based
into
on
it
the
yet, but
game series?
it was based on it was based on the games, but it's like its own thing, as I
Okay,
understand it.
gotcha.
So I don't know. Maybe I should explain it next time because
Maybe.
I only remember from what I've like read a little bit of, but I haven't actually confirmed a lot of it already. Like, whatever. My words are getting jumbled now. But it's like I've watched like 6 episodes of it. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's very much an anime in the style of old shonen series from the 80s and 90s, which
Yeah.
is like Dragon Quest Dai is explicitly that. Like that's like one of the prototypical shonen series.
Yeah.
From the creator of Dragon Ball, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
pretty
he was
sure
he was like the character, like the art designer for the Dragon Quest
Yeah.
games.
But I'm pretty sure he completely created this.
I can see that.
Yeah, so it's got its.
I can imagine that.
I want to
That'd be
look
cool.
it up now, just because I wasn't actually not
Just
super sure.
just to be sure. Yeah, yeah. Well,
But
while you what do you find? What does it say? I'd be curious. Because it definitely has the lore.
Yeah, it's not done by him at all. Apparently, never mind.
Okay.
I don't know how I got that impression, but it's like
Well,
it's
because
very,
the
like,
games were, you'd assume that he would be involved of an anime adaptation of a game that he was involved in, a game series he was involved in creating, at least the art for.
They're looking it up. Apparently, it was running at the same time as Dragon Ball, so it couldn't have happened. But it's very like traditional and it's very conventional, but there's something very satisfying to it in the same way Dragon Quest as a series is kind of like that. It just kind of offers a very straightforward and familiar feeling kind of story and world, and does it very well in a very polished way that is very like inviting and very, I don't know, there's something very comfortable about it in a way that Dragon Quest does better than most, I think, especially with the art style they have, like Toriyama's style, which I think is a bit different here, but it's still kind of the overall same sort
spiky
of design.
hair and big eyes and
fight. Yeah, I called an early, not to spoil much,
child soldier, child warrior type thing.
Yeah, kind of there. Yeah, but like one thing I called early on was like not to spoil, like I'm spoiling a little bit, but it's an old series and it's like a long series as well because it's like 90 episodes in and it's still not finished because it's like a ongoing anime series. Yeah, and like one thing I called was like the mentor. Like,
wait, what show is this?
Oh, the one I'm watching.
Oh, Dragon Quest Dai. Okay, it's 90. Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, because the current adaptation is 90 episodes in, but that was one
prior.
Yeah.
So that was like from 1991 to 1992 was the original adaptation of the Adventure of Dai in anime form. Okay.
Yeah, now it's like I think it's a bit like Hunter x Hunter, where that one had like an original. Well, it's like there's probably been a lot actually, but that one was the one I was thinking of, where it's like it had like its original anime run that started like basically right when the manga started and started being very popular, and then they ran out of materials, so they never came back to it, and now they're coming back decades later to do it again. When it's actually finished, which I think is But I was kind of surprised also by how much it feels like a 90s anime, not in that it's like hand drawn, but it probably is in a lot of. I know it is in a lot of ways. It's just not. It doesn't have that like material textured look like the old stuff does.
Yeah, but it's very clean.
Yeah, but it's like it's very evocative of that era. So to me, as someone who hasn't watched a ton of it really, but it still has that. It still hits me that way,
Yeah. And it definitely, like, if you look at kind of more modern anime, just looking at the trailer, like it definitely has that 90s look of like there's much less shading and much less detail in like the models and everything, and the characters and stuff. But you can definitely tell that it's like a mix. Like it's got like CG, like a lot of the stuff's CG, like especially when they do panning shots and stuff. That's just how I think modern anime kind of mixes hand drawn with CG with digital animation.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually, because that stuff hasn't shown up much at all actually. I'm surprised they even did it in the first place.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't come up much as the series goes on, but but like broadly, it's like it is 2D mostly. Even in action scenes, for some reason it did turn 3D for a moment though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. But it's although that was funny. Like I started like the last episode introduced a character called Mam, which I was kind of
What?
shocked by. Her
Nice.
name is Mam, like Maam, just without the apostrophe in the middle. I
That's a
was
that's a
like,
Toriyama thing for sure, right?
yeah, it
He
all
does
sounds
that.
like it all felt like I thought it was by Toriyama until now. And like because one thing I predicted and actually happened was the mentor character sacrificing himself to try and kill a villain, and it just
Yeah.
doesn't work at all. And it's
Oh,
like that's exactly what Dragon Ball happened. It
yeah.
happened in Dragon Ball like 5
Multiple
times.
times, yeah. God. That
But
must be a
it's
trope in anime. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be now. I
Like,
love it actually.
yeah.
I was thinking about how much I actually
How
like that trope,
futile.
even though it's so bleak.
Fair
Um,
enough.
but yeah, that is what I've been doing this week. Over here.
Yeah, so for me, I'll talk about a couple of things. First thing is I've gone back to start watching Mobile Suit Gundam Double Zeta or ZZ Gundam, depending on what you call. So I realize I don't know when this happened, but at some point it came to Crunchyroll, so I didn't have to kind of go on dodgy websites to try and find it, and so it still sucks, but it's
Why are
like
you watching it then?
because it apparently gets better like second half of the season. The reason why I want to do it is because so like Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway, which is the Netflix movie that came out last year, I think, is really, really good. But that kind of caps off the story arc that started with the original Gundam. So I've watched the original Gundam, then I've watched Zeta Gundam, which was the sequel, which like if like Gundam was like kind of like a mix between like it was probably it's like pulpy and a mix between pulpy and realism. And then like Zeta Gundam was going a lot more into the kind of the psychological effects of war and like commentary on warfare and things like that. And it just happens to have giant robots fighting. Then this one is just like you take the serious tone of Zeta Gundam, and then this one like so far has just been really bad slapstick comedy. It's kind of like such a big change. Like I can't imagine what it would have been like waiting. You know, you finish Zeta Gundam and then you wait for the sequel series to come out, and it's so different and it's so lighthearted and stuff. But apparently, the second half of this series gets serious and like is a bit more like it actually becomes good. Apparently, so I'm waiting. I'm just gritting my teeth and making my way through this. Like,
are you like very appreciative of like gag comedy in manga very often, or is it just bad?
No, this is just bad. Like this is just like characters like you know, like the other Gundams, like they would have like comedy. Like there's like Spy X Family is like very funny with its gags, whereas like the gag comedy of that is much more kind of like smart. Whereas this is just like lowest common denominator, like very sexist, very like like things like gag comedy is funny when it's like you know, this is just very absurd for this character to be doing it, but it's just like a funny depiction or a funny situation they find themselves in. Whereas in this one it's just like, no, these people are just fucking idiots. Like the enemies are just dumb. Like why would you do that? Why would you act like this? Why would you be, you know what I mean? It's just like it's like unearned comedy.
You know if there's like a reason it was like that in the first place, or have you looked into it?
No, I will, but it's like, so I've like, there's like there's like, you know, those like kind of like Crunchyroll has got like a whole thing that takes you through every single timeline. It's like I've watched the first two of those for the shows that I've watched, and I'm like, oh, okay, I should probably like stop here before I get spoiled. Because then it'll take away anything that is redeeming this thing. Because like after this, there's like a movie that came out in 1988 that like starred one of the main like kind of villains from the series, and then it's like, and then the Gundam Hathaway is like came out like what? It's come out like 32 years later or whatever. But it's like that continues from that movie from 1988. So it's like I just got to get through this series, watch that movie, and then this, and then I don't have to be like beholden to anything else, and then I can watch other Gundam series as I want. Because like, if you wanted a way into Gundam, I think you'd really like, It's called Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. I think you can even watch it for free on YouTube on the Gundam Info channel, but that one is the one that came out in like 2015, 2016. The first season of that's really good. The second season is kind of like a subversion of like the standard Gundam kind of plot. But I think it tried to do too much too quickly in one season. It just didn't work. It was like it probably needed more breathing room because it was such a departure from the first series. But if you watch the first season, I think you'll really like it. And you don't need to know anything about Gundam because it's like a fresh timeline, like a fresh kind of start.
Okay. Because I just loaded up Gundam to see if I can find that timeline thing you were talking about.
Yeah, it's called
So
Crunchyroll.
I'll look it up later.
It's a YouTube video. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's
but Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is on there now, which I didn't realize. So I forgot that was happening. So now I'm gonna go watch that later, probably.
Let's see. What's that one called? Jujutsu.
Oh, okay.
Kaisen 0.
Yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen. Oh, I was excited. It's like the movie that came out early this year or last year.
Gotcha.
It doesn't. I don't know if anyone's
based on Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay, I was gonna say that sounds familiar.
I was really excited for the movie actually being on a streaming service because that doesn't happen for anime movies all that often. So it's
Crunchyroll, get your money's worth.
Because I've got a trial right now because for some reason I think they gave me a free trial for like my updated credit card or something because I probably shouldn't have got it, but they gave me one, so I'm watching. That's why I started Dragon Quest. But I'll start Iron Blooded sometimes soon.
Iron Blooded Orphans. Yeah, I think you like it, and you can get like Gundam Wing on there and stuff which is like kind of like the one that broke into America. So Gundam Wing was the one that kind of came to America in like I think year 2000 or 2001. So like that was on Toonami back in the day. So like that's very much like you could picture like Dragon Ball Z and then Gundam Wing and stuff being on at the same time. Like a lot of people have the same nostalgia for that series, so that could be like another one. But I really like the first two series, and then this one is just like fuck. It's just but I'm just waiting. I'm my manager at work, he's telling me off. He's like, you need to watch Attack on Titan 2, like the season 2. Like, what are you doing? Like, my manager's like a full-on anime nerd. Like, that's so cool. Like, he's like,
you're risking your job by not watching it.
Yeah, every week we have a check-in meeting, and he's just like, all it is just him asking if I've continued Attack on Titan. But yeah, besides that, I've been watching She-Hulk. I've seen the first 4 episodes of it. It's not bad. it's like it does some like kind of like it's a very novel idea, of what it is. Like I understand that it's got huge pedigree in comics. Like I think it's like it's got its charm and it is kind of funny and it does like involve Wong. Like you see more Wong here than you've pretty much seen in any like all the movies combined. So that there's that. Mark Ruffalo's in it as well at the beginning, but it's like it's just I don't get the whole thing of She-Hulk. Like I'm not familiar with She-Hulk in the comics, but is she like a Deadpool where there's a lot of fourth wall breaking stuff? Because there is okay. Because
I think it's just a creative conceit anyway. Like you can just treat it as its own thing.
Like for me, it's very weird because it's coming from the this. It's very weird because it's technically because it's MCU, like nothing else really breaks the fourth wall except Deadpool, but that's technically not MCU. That's like, the X-Men Fox universe, right? Which I mean, technically now there's crossover because
that was technically part of the X-Men universe, and that worked fine too. Like, I don't know. Like I never really have. Like
it was so weird, but it's just like I get it. Like there's some there's some kind of there's some good comment, like there's some commentary and stuff about how maybe potentially there's like a lesson here saying that for a woman to be respected by men, she has to create like a very hyper masculine or very strong dominant alter ego, and only in that when they have that alter ego persona on are they actually seen by like a male dominated world. But then when they are in that alter ego, like in that very kind of successful, like whatever, situation, women judge them for, it's like I understand that there's some commentary there, and it's good that I think it's like written by a woman, it's like directed by a woman, and I think Tatiana Maslany, who's the main character, I think she's doing like a pretty good job with what she's been given. I think like it definitely hurts that the CG is really lacking here. I think Bruce Banner looks really like he kind of looked good, but like I think the She-Hulk herself, just the character model is just like very low detail in a weird way compared to like previous Marvel stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what I kind of took away because I ended up watching the.
Oh,
I
you
only
did
seen
watch
the
some?
first episode.
Okay.
I watched the first episode a little bit ago, and I
Yeah.
ended up watching the first episode again with my sister just because like we are just kind of curious, and I think it was most talk about the CGI, and I was kind of like we ended up just watching the first episode, and
Yeah.
I was thinking about exactly what you said, where it's like it feels like they had Hulk done already because he was done at a high level for the last
Yeah,
Avengers
right.
movie.
Yeah.
And now it feels like they had to do that again for She-Hulk quickly and on a low budget because that's how all these VFX contracts go.
Yeah.
And it was like, and like, but she's also like a more uncanny sort of design where she's
Yeah.
more like Hulk is like more monstrous by nature
Yeah.
and by concept, where She-Hulk is just mostly a large lady,
But-
strong-looking lady.
But
And
she's like,
got like a
yeah.
big hair as well that is very hard to make look not uncanny. I think
Exactly.
that's the impression I get from it at least.
Because the thing is, like, if Hulk looks like a big version of Bruce Banner, She-Hulk versus Jennifer Walters do not look like each other.
I don't even know about that. It's like I feel like Hulk doesn't look like a man as much to me. To my
But
eyes.
oh yeah, like he's
so wide and
proportionally
he's so
yeah.
bulky. And it's like I think
But he
to-
still looks
I
like
think-
Bruce face wise and hair wise,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Whereas here, her face looks different. Her hair is a completely different. But then like physically, they just make her they just make her like an Amazonian kind of like image rather than just being like hulked out, like a hulked out woman. And I don't know if that's like, I get it because like in the comics, like She-Hulk is like very sexualized and stuff. So
Well, I think in this
you know
case,
what I mean?
it's like She-Hulk is at least from how the show does it, because I haven't read any She-Hulk comics myself.
Yeah,
But from how the show depicts it or presents it, it's meant to be, in a way, an idealistic version of herself, which is why she doesn't look like she's like a different version of Hulk to Bruce. That was my read.
okay.
Fully idealistic, but it has like elements that she wished she could have normally.
Really? Okay.
That was my read of it from the first episode. Like that's kind of like it has those moments where it's like
Yeah, but how does
having
okay?
all this strength, and that's
Yeah,
like
but
like
I think where that falls down is like, but the spoilers. The reason why she becomes Hulk is that she gets her blood gets contaminated with Bruce's blood, but it's not like she's like she's got a venom symbiote or something that creates like an ideal version of her. Like then that like be like, oh, that gamma radiated blood is like sentient and like kind of working off her own insecurities and her own like kind of
I think
self-image.
I didn't mean
Yeah,
that it was
way, or-
like intentional. I just meant as in like she lucked out with a version of Hulk that,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
like where Bruce got unlucky because he's an angry, and always he's both extremely angry by nature.
That's
And
true.
he's also just genetically unlucky where he got this
Yeah.
version of Hulk that's just a monster.
Yeah, because like they touch on the fact that she can like fully control. She's still fully herself. Like there's no split personality like there was with like that Bruce struggled with for years, like of Hulk versus
like,
Bruce,
purely-
whereas she doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Like,
I
none
can
of
see
it's
that.
I think the idea is that it's both her. Like I think they kind of end up. I feel like it's a bit on the nose in the first episode where they really stress how like I'm a woman who's always had to put on a front and always had to
Gotcha.
code switch and so which it was not invaluable, but I think it could have had some more subtlety at times. But it was still like
yeah,
it just
okay, yeah.
Also because it's just a pilot. Pilots tend to be like that too.
Yeah, but I guess
it's,
also like I think if they made it too subtle, there'll be articles saying it doesn't go far enough, but then maybe that would be worse than if you go too far and then people get angry. But then the women, like in the audience, might be like, "Oh, hell yeah, girl!" Like hell yeah, I resonate with that.
Well, I think it's also just that it kind of I mean, there's a whole show I haven't seen, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not trying to judge it too much. It just has that girl boss vibes, which is kind of condescending at times.
Oh no,
But they're
yeah,
all
yeah,
people,
yeah.
so maybe I'm a bit much. Yeah.
No, 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 it does. It's like kind of like I don't need a man. It's yeah. There's like some stuff there, like yeah, you're right.
But it's like there's
yeah,
value in that too at times.
yeah,
It just depends on how it's portrayed sometimes. But it's
yeah.
what is it? It's yeah. Sorry, I think I took over the conversation.
No, no, it's all good. I mean, I'll keep watching it because it's still interesting, and I think episode 5's out, and I think 6 comes out today. So I'm gonna be interested in seeing Daredevil because, like,
Oh yeah.
hell yeah, because Daredevil is such an awesome character in the MCU that I think is like underappreciated by everyone who works at Marvel. Apparently,
I don't,
yeah.
is he like? Isn't he getting like a 30-episode show or whatever?
Dude, yes, he's getting like a full-on show in 2025.
Yeah, it's gigantic. I forget how many episodes it's meant to have. It's meant to have.
Oh, it's meant to be like a 19-episode season or 18-episode season.
30.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know.
well, that'll be who knows. But yeah, I think we've yeah.
Andor came out today too, the Star Wars show.
Should it be Andor or and/or watch this and or She-Hulk? That's how I'm gonna think about it.
Okay.
Because like, I don't know, man.
I mean, I think
Yeah, I don't know.
people are capable of watching 2 shows at a
Yeah,
time.
yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, it's just like I feel like you and me, we've been burnt by the Star Wars shows. Maybe Boba Fett more specifically, but maybe this will be good.
To be fair, Andor I think I'm talking too loud. I think Andor is like
More serious. Oh.
It's not even just more serious. Like, I mean, I think it just looks from the last trailer and the way it's been described, and the fact that they gave it such a big run,
Push,
you know,
yeah.
because it's like 12 episodes.
Oh, really?
Like
Okay.
an hour at a time or something.
Shit.
Which is like
and
way more
3 came out today.
The Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
wow.
I'm very I think they have faith in it. Like, as I was thinking of it this morning, where it's like, I wonder if they gave it that sort of push and budget because they kind of see it as an award winner.
Gotcha.
Which is not true of any of these other shows. Not to say they're bad, they're just not like that.
Yeah, I saw a headline saying that it's like much more closer to like like an adult TV show, like a drama versus like kind of like the pseudo swashbuckling adventures of like the other Star Wars shows. Yeah. And like
AV Club gave it a C+, which is oh, they gave the first episode. I don't know. I'll look into it. But they gave the other episodes better ones. So yeah. But I'm excited. Like, I want to watch it just because it looks more interesting than a lot of these shows have been.
Hey,
lately.
and it's not set on Tatooine. Like that in and of itself is why you should watch it.
Yeah, because I was thinking the other day where it's like, at this point, I'm not even that interested in Mandalorian anymore, which I wasn't a huge hyper fan anyway. But I do find myself thinking it's like, I'm not even sure I really want to watch the next season all that much, just because it's been so bland lately, including Mandalorian. Really, like, it's all just kind of stuff, and now it's just like, I feel like I'm kind of burnt out on Star Wars.
Like,
generally.
Yeah, and like the reunion of Grogu with Mandalorian happened in the Boba Fett show, so it's like
very annoying about that.
Yeah, so it's like that would have been the like that all happened in one episode, remember? Whereas like if say Mandalorian 3 was like kind of, you know, Grogu's getting into some hijinks because some stuff's happening with him and Luke, but in the meantime Mandalorian's also kind of like dealing with his like kind of loss and, you know, going on his own adventures, and then they cross paths again. Like there's that, you know, that would have been a much more impactful reunion rather than, oh, it's already happened, now what do we do? And now it's just Mandalorian 1 again.
Yeah, like that's like, I think it's like, when I think about it, it's like, man, I could be spending all this time on watching Star Wars junk on like anything else. Like, I started watching Better Call Saul because I kept hearing about how great the ending was.
Okay.
And I liked the show because I watched a bunch of it when it started. and then I dropped off at some point, and now
Okay.
there's just so many more seasons, so I'm starting again. I was thinking, yeah, I could just watch more of that show instead of Star Wars, and I'll probably be better for it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start thinking about that more.
Maybe. But yeah, you know, speaking of thinking about starting to do something, how about we start to wrap up this show? Thank you everyone for watching another episode, listening to another episode of Double Jumper Radio. As always, Double Jumper Radio is made possible thanks to the support of our wonderful Patreon members and our site members as well. You too can become a doublejump.co supporter by going to doublejump.co/memberships and signing up there. We'll also be launching a new Discord soon, which I feel like I've been saying for months now, but trust me, it is going to be soon. It's going to be it's going to be a lot of fun, and thank you so much, everyone at home. We didn't get to talk about Netflix Edge Runners. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard really good reviews about it, and apparently it's gotten people like legitimately interested in Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah. I'm kind of somewhat upset by it, even though I like that Trigger finally released something very good again. No, not to be too down on it. I like Trigger as an animation studio, but I feel like it's been a while since they made something especially excellent.
Yeah.
It kind of annoys me where it's like, man, Cyberpunk's the one they decided to do a lot of work
on, yeah.
And now it's like, but I do kind of find it funny how it's like Cyberpunk is getting really good sales again.
Yeah.
Like the game. And I was thinking, it's like, I kind of don't mind the idea that people are watching the anime and then going and being disappointed by the game, because I'm guessing that's going to be kind of common.
I mean, at least I saw a joke. I was watching a video and the joke was that like, I mean, compared to Cyberpunk 2077, this runs at a better frame rate.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's and it's got no bugs, like very consistent art style. I think, cohesive story. Who knows? But yes, like, I don't know. I guess I'll watch it because why not?
Yeah, I'll give it a try as well, because it's meant to be, it's meant to be good, and it seems like a better actual examination of Cyberpunk themes.
Yeah, I mean,
which makes it more worthwhile to me.
I was a big fan of the Castlevania Netflix adaptation, so I'm hoping this is more like that and less like the Tekken one.
And hopefully there's no transphobia in it, which is, to make it clear, is my main deal. Not that it's bad at Cyberpunk or anything.
Is that Cyberpunk, the game, had a lot of transphobia, kind of language, imagery, and no, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to
and
make
in the
clear,
marketing as well.
I'm not being a weird nerd and saying this isn't good enough Cyberpunk, and it's making me angry. I'm mad about other things. Yeah.
Oh well, that's gonna do it for another episode of Double Jumper Radio. John, my friend, thank you once again. I wish you all the best over the next week as you, I guess, look after Rocket and get him used to the new place and the cats.
Yeah, I'll take it.
But yeah, thank you everyone. Please head over to doublejump.co to read all of our awesome content that we'll have coming up, and find us on all social media wherever you can. But yeah, thank you so much everyone, and until next time, look out for one another. Peace.
Bye.
See you later everyone.